Hey guys, it's Crypto Sniper time, and we checked in with you a little bit earlier in the day on the run, and we promised you also a opportunity to take a peek at the charts as well, so that it made a little bit more sense. That's right. Why don't I bring the speaker a little bit closer? How about that? The mic. So you should be hearing me loud and clear. So what actually went on? Well, we had an upside HVF on the smaller time frames, a structure we like and we specialize in, as you know by now if you're new to this channel, hunt volatility funnel method, and you regularly get them in the right side of shoulders. So there you go. It's, you know, kind of three structure. This was a little bit cheeky because it almost went, had a little fake and break and then went. But it's the squeezy Japanesey that we love so much. It's this constriction of the volatility. But the other part of this that's a bit bigger that I was also referring to in the video that we did on your update was in actual fact that there's more scope for upside than just that particular target. Although I do think you'll rest at 45. So 45 is a key level again. It's halfway to the big ones of 47.5, which we warned you would die at. After you'd run it, you didn't get that much higher. I mean, 47,957 over here. I was talking of 49s. I don't know where I got that from. It seems broadly. Oh, hold on. What was that? Yeah, you might have on a very short spike. On a very short spike, you did get higher. Sorry. But I mean, that didn't hold for 1 nanosecond. Trust me, nobody got out at 49,000. There's always somebody traded volume, but no one on any meaningful level got out on 49,000. All the candle bodies were sub 47.5. So just to look at that 47.5 call, get out, get defensive that we made, just as a reminder, all the candle bodies, the highest candle bodies are here. That's below 47.5. You sold a wick on the 4-hour chart, a standard bearer day time frame, which is essentially meant to be a quarter of a day, but of course 6 hours is a quarter of a day. But we tend to just look at the 4-hour, the daily, and the 1 hour. Those are, you know, standard bearer time frames of a medium time frame type view. No one on the 4-hour got 47.5 on a candle. All you sold a wick. If you sold anywhere there, you had an opportunity there, you had an opportunity there, and you had an opportunity there. And then you ended down at 38. Now, what I was describing in the video earlier on today in the drive-by was, in actual fact, that's the bottom of an inverted head. So I've drawn it for you in red. So I'm going to take off our little HVF for now, which is a lower time frame setup. We were looking at that on the 1 hour, which is why we were biasing bull. But cautiously so. Nothing we want to do too madly. I'm going to talk to you about the dollar a little bit as well in a second. So we take that off. Let's just focus on the inverted head and shoulder. So that got just through. So the 42.5 was a key level. This is how key levels get thrown down. And you could see before we finished making the low head, we actually squeezed around that. You see that? Around the 42.5. That was respecting it as a key level. What that did is give you a slightly higher point, which I'm going to call the 43,575. Now that's going to be unique on Binance. It's a tiny bit lower on Bitstamp or any of the other guys out there. And by the way, what did you get? You got kind of an imperfect inverted HVF on the left shoulder to be followed up with a little bit of an interesting, but definitely upside on the right shoulder. We talk about complexity of patterns and patterns within patterns and how what you get in your left shoulder often gets replicated in the right shoulder. And one is a downside structure and one is the wind up for the upside structure. So inside of that, you then broke down, you went really low vol, broke down. You had a tiny, we were in on this one, by the way. Yeah, we were watching on a low time frame, pop. And then you got what I'd called a very small shoulder for a little bit of a dip here as well. So you'll see there's a neckline there. That's the small shoulder. But actually, the bigger, more dominant pattern is the one I've drawn for you in the transgender pink. And that's the one we're going to talk most about. So where is the second interaction with the 43,575? And it was there. That was your second interaction. You actually tapped out a few times and you had candle bodies there before you put in a down leg and came back. Where did you come back to? 42, key round number, neckline of this pattern. Yeah. So there was the smaller pattern in the light blue. And that was its thinner. I don't want it to dominate 42 level. And you could see this was a key round level, and you came and you dipped down there. Then you sat on hammer, 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 2 hammers on our now long-term key level of significance, 42.5 and 47.5. These are end of bull market head and shoulder established. They've pivoted from the light blue to the dark blue key levels of significance, and they will run on as significant if we ever get a bear market on the downside. Some people will say you'll never see them again. I heard that many times at 10K Bitcoin, only for it to happen many more times, only for it eventually to be true. And so it will be with all levels if it continues to inflate. So this little guy, lots of key levels, and where did it bounce? Where was the resistance? So it had a fake break that got slammed. Where was the resistance? Boom! At the same neckline that we just drew, there was the resistance here as well. You see how these points come. And by the way, you tested it again there when you were heading. Where did you bounce? There. Oh, the 42.5, that key blue level. So you can see this is how price behavior validates your selection of key levels when it does this. That means you've got the right levels. You go up, you reject, you bounce around, you come down. Where did you hit? Key level number 1. You reject, you bounce back up, you go down, next key level run, and then you tighten in what's almost this box over here. So let's draw it as a box rather than doing messy lines. And then you start to tighten in between these 2 levels here. And this actually was beginning to be a breakout even here, as it started to move up and took out that localized high over there as you started to get out the box. And then of course you break the neckline, which is the right shoulder. This is your right shoulder here, drawn in the TG pink. That's it there. Let's just double up on it. There you go. And that was all an upside swinging HVF, as you had an imperfect inverted on the 42.5 on your left side. And we highlighted this point in previous videos here. That then gave you that low. So actually, price behavior makes more sense than most people appreciate. This is how it plays out. And so what? Okay, Francis, lots of talk about what happened, where do we go? Well, we were talking about this upside HVF inside our community. We didn't leak it all out, but I shared it as it was breaking, after it was breaking for, our community was in, those that want to be in. So what happens next? Where is the target, you might ask? Well, the interesting thing is I've got a target here of 48,610. 48,610. That's on Binance, one of the biggest platforms. Okay, that is the target from that neckline, which gave you this beautiful right shoulder when you had this here as your left shoulder and all of this. So redrawn this countless times. This has been good for Bitcoin. This has been very good. Other tokens are also performing. By the way, Total 3 looked very good. There were a lot of structures that were in HVF type structures, by the way, and we were looking at our favorites and a number of them. I'm only going to talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum. You want to know more about what we talk about, you know what to do. I'm not going to keep hammering it home, but links are below. So this will probably have a rest on its HVF target. That is a dip that I think should be bought on the basis that at some point, I'm not saying it'll go all the way back to the neckline, it might. In due course, we'll run the 48,610. Now I want to highlight, remember, 49, I was right when I said 49, I had a line covering it, which was the technical breach of our 47.5 on dip spikes. It means you'll probably equal, be just under, or just surpass the previous high. Now, as I mentioned in the video earlier, it's actually my personal preference that we just run it and turn around. We can do 48.8 or whatever, but I'd rather it didn't do higher than 49, but it's quite likely to. You'll see there's a red line up here as well, and that is very much part of a channel. This thin red line over here. So what does that mean? Well, we might revisit to the slightly higher high of the red line channel. Where did it come from? Okay, let's go back out again and show you that draw. Whoops, that's getting messy. That was possibly too big a leap. Let's go to 12 hours. And highlight that there. So as you can see, it was capturing across the top of the previous. Now I want to just ensure you've got to be careful that you know whether you're in log scale or regular. So that was a broadening structure that went like that. That's why we broke out the bottom. We warned there was a broadening structure. You'd gone up strong. Then you were going up in a grindy fashion. You created this rising wedge. You had a serious slam down. That brought you to the bottom edge of this basing, ascending grind line. And then eventually you broke that. And it's fascinating that you broke that point really properly here. And what was happening there, so we're on normal time frame, not log. That's the point you surrendered the 42.5 key level of significance. It's the point you broke the bagel that we've highlighted all the way along here. So there's a lot of, it's almost like sights. X marks the spot. Down she goes, down she goes, down she goes. Spiller, absolute thriller. Where's that? You can see now that red line is a lot further away. That's why these things matter when you are drawing. So we're going to go up on the weekly time frame to have a look at that. So there you go, and I think I'm going to need to stick that back on log scale. That's a channel. Just ignore the numbers right now. That's a channel that is pushing along the way. So at the moment, on the bigger time frame, log, let's clean my face a little bit there, and ignore the text here. This has been very much a breakdown, rally up, breakdown, up to the top, then across the entire channel to the low end, then all the way up to the high end. And since then, we've been going a bit across. Now, I will take that lights off there so you can see it. But we had a big rejection there. We had a bit of a hammer that part negated that. It didn't have quite the same deep dip and then rally, but it had a reasonable one. And now we're moving back up again. So there is a channel as well across here that currently we appear to be respecting. In our line of sight, we must also not forget that as part of all of this, and I'm going to add this line because it's got to be one of the most important lines, and I was mentioning it earlier today, and it needs to go further back than that into history, but it is the 50K level. So it's quite likely you're going to need a winding up coiling process to breach the 50,000 of some form. But it is possible that you just squirt through it. So again, I'm going to just highlight that. That's running all the way through there. So I don't think you're just going to run straight up and run that 50,000. I think this is why you're going to get that 48, 49. You might make a marginally higher high, pull back. And there's going to be some degree of tenuousness and pull back and a little bit of chop, a little bit of churn. But enjoy this up ride while you are in it. That is the key message. Enjoy the ride while you are in it. HVF break. This is starting to show a degree of fatigue. So the HVF target, whoops, let's take that off. The HVF target will be run and then you'll have a pullback. In that event, I would say for those that didn't get long, you could add on dips, but make sure you know where your stops are. You know, you got to start looking way back at 42 for me. So you'd need to buy you'd need to hope for a reasonable pullback. So Ompit 1, Ompit 2, and overall. Let's go have a look at something else apart from Bitcoin. So Ethereum's actually surprised quite a few people. Let's just refresh and get CoinMarketCap up. Because in the yesterday, the last 24 hours, it was one of the strongest ups. Now Bitcoin has taken back a little bit of this dominance. We're just looking at the 24% number. Bitcoin is up 4%, but actually yesterday Ethereum had done rather well. It's hung tough. Now you've got Solana looking really good. Cardano's done 10%. We discussed that in our community with its winding up structure. It's one of those that had HVF structure. AVAX, Tron is slightly down, dancing very much to its own tune. So that's your update, and then you're at about Shiba. So the real stars there were Sol, Cardano in the last 24 hours, but before that it was actually Ethereum. I almost said Ethereum. Sounds like something else. Anyway, so going back here, this is our draw on this particular one. Also, because of that fake and break, you can see this also had a pump and a washout, a little bit of an early attempt. And this was a slight second impulse for us. Very spiky first. But off she went, paused at our second interim. It even had a pullback at the first, by the way, if you look at this on a lower time frame, and then went, paused on the second. It's needing a little bit of girding of the loins to finish target. It could pull back a bit more, actually, before it does its target. But this has also been a performance. We have highlighted that on the macro, ETH, and we particularly chose to show you ETH Euro, is in a big time frame structure as well. So just a reminder of that one. People forget, and it's they don't all have the visual brains for charts that some people have, and they need reminders. But on the bigger time frame, ETH Euro has been pretty good. Let's put him in. I'm going to use the same one, and I think it was around about there, and we got a target for you at about 2938. I'm not sure that was actually the original draw. Might have been a little bit higher up. Let's go back and put it there. Might have to drop a time frame. I've gone and put myself into a tiz now, and I have to find out what time frame it was that we did the draw on. Drop the time frame and show you the draw. Otherwise, it's in an incomplete loop. That's it. I think that was it. And then I just need to change that to settings. Yeah, so we are developing great tools for our strategy. That was our draw. That makes sense again, and now it's back in the game. And you can also see where it cooled. The value of HVF method is also telling you where it's going to cool and go slow and get a sell-off. So we were talking around 3,200 euros. So target 32323. You can see you had a little wind up here. You pumped, made your second interim, pushed through, and then had a wee dump as part of that. I'm going to take that line off. And then now you're recovering in terms of that eventual journey to there. Now, I want to highlight something else that was going on, and that's the dollar index. But before we do that, let's have a look at dominance. Bitcoin back into pushing up on dominance. Back into pushing up on dominance. Let's go daily. So it's been quite a choppy one in terms of dominance. There was a little bit of up and down in all of this rigmarole. You can see a low in there. I can't see quite how technically to characterize this. I might even do a very fat channel, something like that, for example. And it's been super volatile in that. But it's currently working its way back up, and that is your 53%. Bit of a key level that's split this channel. So if that be a channel, let's draw it a little bit more boldly there. That's your splitter on the channel. And also across the corner of that flag, we have a flag type structure, for example. Across the corners of the flag, you have a half above, half below. That's the iceberging part of the dominance that is above the level. And then you also have a similar degree. It should have roughly the same area below the level, like that. So you can see how that plays out. Looks like we might have you push hard through that and then maybe dip back onto it, or we'll just push through it and pull back. Those are typical ways we interact with a key level. It should be 53. I couldn't get it to accept the round number. So that's Bitcoin dominance. What about that dollar index that I was threatening? So here we go. So we benefited out of this little pullback, but it's important to point out that the dollar is quietly gaining against most of the currencies. We don't want it to get disorderly bullish, because that's a headwind for crypto and gold. You had, again, little head and shoulder here. We drew this. That also was an HVF squeezy Japanesey on our key level of significance, which was 102.5. That broke, got to target. What does it do after target? Pullback. We've been benefiting over the last 2 days on that pullback. In the broadening structure, you broke out the top because it was continuation orientated broadening. If you want to find out how we conclude that, book a call below. So there you were, you're breaking out the top of that in continuation, rammed your way through 104.25. And that's interesting with this pullback. I was wondering if it would do a deeper pullback, because you might end up getting even bigger structure. Again, this is all the way up to here. If we were to dip down again one more time. Now there is, I think, some data due. We need to check that. Might be coming out. If we could get a dollar sell-off there. Unemployment claims Thursday. That's at 3:30. Hey, that should be in. It should just be in. Give it to me. If it's my time, it might be US time. Yeah, 218 actual. So very close to forecast, slightly under, which is bullish. Less unemployment. less unemployment, bullish. So there you go. That's again the dollar working its way up. Now, if it were to get disorderly strong, and people underestimate that the dollar is actually bottomed against the euro, the yen, the Japanese yen, which is obviously very weak. It's our favorite for weakening recently. The pound and the Swiss franc gives it a bit of spine, but it's not a big percent. So if you just have a look at this without all the annotations, this was the big sell, and this is very much beginning of a bottoming process. And there was quite a nasty reaction to any further downside when we spilt through that level there. Now you've come back down, but it's now a higher high and a higher low. And now you're going on up. So you've got a quarter pipe, I call it Skater Boys quarter pipe. That's the beginning of a bit of a rounding. So you've got to bear that in mind for those of you that want to get too bullish or expect it's going to get done too fast. This is not a time for mental moon boy talk. We are in a macro bull period for Bitcoin, but we're not in the mania pumpermentals phase. We're in the steady base building moving up. We need to see it show strength when dollar is being strong. It's done a little bit of that, more so than gold at the moment. But I do think the dollar is also basing a little bit, and it's had a number of positive days. The non-farm payrolls, as mentioned, was, hey, everything is absolutely awesome. Unemployment down, earnings up, loads of jobs created, all of this. So it flies very much in terms of against most people's sentiment, but it's overarchingly very positive. That keeps yields higher, that keeps bonds lower, which is invariably the case given the supply and should be the case. And I don't think they can do the cuts that they say they can. So certainly not to the degree that many people expect. Okay, so that's your update. Quick check-in on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Broadly positive, looking a little bit gassy because of the HVF targets coming up now. Possible chance for a little bit of a pullback and get a little bit more choppy. But overall, given time, assuming nothing mental on the dollar dominance side, you should be okay for a 48.6K run, which is going to take you to the doorstep of one of the most significant numbers between 10 and 100 grand. That's the 50K Bitcoin. And that'll have a lot of people feeling quite chipper were it to come about. There's that 50K. Let's just take you up to a higher time frame. When last we had 50K? We're going to have to just draw that line in my mind. There it is. And then hide all the annotations. There it is, basically 50K. Long time lost. This flag rally didn't make it to 50K. 50K was on the tips of these two shoulders of the head and shoulder. So very seminal level, probably going to need some winding up. I really don't think you're just going to go from here and smash right through. Possible, but I don't think it's my overarching. Remember that 47.5 resisted hard, and you were very high momentum. That's why you had the extra $1.5 to touch the 49, literally for one Satoshi to trade probably, and then you were very quickly rejected. This was an ugly rejection. So it's unlikely you just overwhelm it single-handedly and the next go. You tend to wrestle with these things a little longer. Okay, you know what to do. Hope the video has been useful. If you want to like, share, and subscribe, we appreciate it. Until next time, I look forward to catching up with you. Bye for now.